Hello again, everyone. This is George Packard with Family Lawn and Landscape with yet another exciting edition of Shop Talk. Okay, today we're going to talk about 13 things that customers hate about lawn care companies. We all do it. We can never be perfect, you know. I know that going in, but these are things that have really come up a lot and things that we use in our advertising actually to help us gain customers. So number one, they're never consistent on the day of week that they come there. If you're supposed to be there on a Wednesday, you need to try to be there on a Wednesday. That's one of their biggest complaints. They, for whatever reason, want to plan around you. I think a lot of these people, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me on this, it seems like they don't have anything to do other than wait for the mailman to come and wait for the lawn guy to come and wait for the pest control guy to come and wait for the pool guy to come. That's all they have to do. That's all they have in their life is just those simple little things, you know. I don't know why, but that's the way it feels sometimes, okay? But anyway, so it's a big deal to them. As soon as you can get your schedule worked around to it. I know in the spring it's impossible to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm going to mow you every Wednesday until you get that spring rush out of the way. Once the spring rush is out of the way, then you can pretty much pattern when you should be at those clients' houses. But even then, there's things like rain and stuff like that come up all the time, okay? So I know it's hard to do, but it's just one of them catch-22s that you're in, okay? Much less the time to consistently be there on time. I mean, there's no way that's ever going to happen, so don't let any customer put you in that position. One of the other things that they don't like is you leaving the gates open. This actually cost me a customer, and I was responsible for it. I went into this backyard, I opened up the gate, I didn't see any dogs anywhere. That's the first thing I look for because, of course, I don't want to get bit. I look around, I didn't see any dogs. So I had shut the gate, and I thought I had it shut. I mean, it stopped right there, so it was closed, and I just thought, okay, it's latched, whatever. So I just gave her hell with the trimming and whatnot. We were in a hurry. There was rain coming. We were behind. Next thing you know, out of the corner of my eye, I get this white flash, and I look, and there's this little poodle-looking dog. Right out from underneath that door it goes, you know, or the little gap in the door, because sure enough, it wasn't completely closed. We must have spent 3 hours trying to get that dog, and we had to call the homeowner up. We didn't know the dog's name. We could get by it. The thing wouldn't come to us. Had to get the homeowner to leave work to come. Anyway, we ended up losing that customer. So, and that was something that I did, my mistake. So it happens. Breaking sprinkler heads. Big controversy on this thing. Just had this out with a guy on YouTube the other day where he was telling me that if they're installed improperly, he's not paying for any sprinkler heads, yada, yada, yada. Tried to explain to him that, look, man, you can pay for them. If each customer is worth $1,000 to you in a year, you could pay $20 a year in sprinkler heads, especially when you're the guy that broke them to begin with, okay? We tell our customers, we fix everything we break, and you should do the same thing, okay? Now, it's hard to tell a lot of times on the sprinklers. I know this because when you run across them, if they're not literally sticking out of the ground, laying on top of the ground, you don't know that you even broke them. I've done that. I've mowed on these lawns, and a customer will call up a day later and say, hey, you broke my sprinkler heads. And I'm thinking, God, I didn't see that. But I didn't see it because it was still in the ground. And when I came back, of course, it's laying on top of the ground now because when it went off, it shot it up like a geyser, and there it lays, okay? So those things happen also. But the thing is, fix them, guys. Just that little bit that it costs you, I mean, we keep them right in the truck. We just keep boxes of them in the truck and just screw them on and you're done with it, okay? Just fix them. Doing burnouts in the lawn, especially with the zero turns. If you're quick on them, a lot of times you'll do that burnout in the lawn, and that's a big pet peeve of customers, you know? And after you have several of these, they're going to let you go, okay? So as I go down this list, these are just top-notch things that I think of all the time because we hear it all the time, okay? So watch those. Slow down, take your time, do a lot more of this kind of thing, okay, so that you're not burning them out, okay? You don't want to lose those customers, so pay attention to that. Creating ruts in the lawn. I'm guilty of this also. I don't think there's anybody out there who hasn't. If you have a zero turn, maybe if you're using a push mower, you obviously you're not leaving ruts, but for those of us that are using heavier equipment, especially if their sprinklers were just run, that's a big problem for me, but there's where communication comes in. If you get to their place at noon, let's say, to mow them, and the grass is wet, whether it just rained or whether their sprinkler system was on, you really should go up to that customer if they're home and talk to them and just say, hey, is there any way I could get you to turn your sprinklers on first thing in the morning or maybe later in the afternoon, something like that. Because if you're constantly coming there on a Wednesday and every time you get there the thing is wet and the sprinkler, it's because of sprinklers, you really got to talk to them and get that changed, because you don't want to drive on the lawn. You create ruts, it pisses them off, and you lose customers. Okay. Missing spots, whether it be with an edger, whether it be with the trimmer or with the blower, not blowing things off. You know, I mean, the biggest thing, and a lot of these people see it, it's that little bit that you left. You could have done a perfect job on the whole lawn, but if you did something, especially on their way walking into the house after a long day at work, and they see where you didn't trim around that tree, that sticks in their mind. They may not say anything right away, but if they see that 2-3 times, different spots in the lawn, all of a sudden they'll actually start looking for things then. They literally will. Once they find mistakes that you're starting to make, then they start to notice them more, and as they notice them more, all of a sudden one day you get the phone call where they found someone else. Okay, so you don't want that to happen. Do your best. That's why I hold both guys accountable in the truck to pay attention to each other's work. And when I do it, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I could be with my number one manager, and him and I go around mowing properties, and he'll point things out to me that I didn't do, and I'll point things out to him that he didn't do. And we're the top guys in the company. So it does happen. I certainly am not going to cast a stone at anybody. But the neat part is we both watch that lawn, so we both catch it, especially late on in the day, and it gets hot and you're tired, and that's when you really make mistakes. So help each other out with that stuff. Line your guys up to watch for each other. Let's see. Not blowing off the walkways or driveways, that's always a huge thing. And even that I get a little torn on sometimes, because I know that I've blown off some properties, and I know I blew that driveway off, especially if it's a windy day and more grass gets blown on the thing after I leave. That's a pet peeve. But, you know, I've also been on properties where I didn't blow them off. I just completely didn't walk around the back of the house. That's the biggest one, is going around the back of the house. You got to make sure, I don't care if your guy is up and in the truck waiting for you, you need to make sure that you go around the back of that house and blow those patios off. People realize that when they come home at night and they take their martini and they head out back and they want to have a drink, they're sitting there watching what you did, and they see all this grass all over their patio. It pisses them off. And I can understand that. They're paying you to not do that. Okay? So make sure you get that taken care of. Pay attention to it. Take that extra minute and walk around that house. You may see where your guy didn't finish trimming something. We've already had it where the guys didn't mow the whole backyard. They never even went back there. And how that tends to happen a lot, especially when you get a bunch of houses in a row. So if you're in a subdivision, if you're doing all of that, it's easy to have that happen because you're just assuming the other guy got it, or you thought you got the back of that one. When you're going house to house to house to house, you know, sometimes you get mixed up and it's like, you know, I thought I got the back. I don't need to go back there. You just keep on going. So you got to develop a system that makes you pay attention to all of that. Okay. Leaving the gates open. We kind of talked about that with the dog. Not communicating with the customers is a huge complaint. And I can't stress this enough. If you make a mistake on the customer's property, assure them that you're going to get it taken care of. We're constantly emailing our customers because that seems to be the wave nowadays, everything on the internet. So if they're home, which, you know, you catch about a third of the people at home. Most of our clients aren't home. They're gone when we get there. So it's hard for us to get them. We went as far as to have these little door hangers made up. And we just have, you know, Family Lawn and Landscape. And then we have little things on there like, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't mow your lawn today. It rained us out, but we will be back next week. I think your lawn will be fine. Things like that, but at least you let them know you were there. If you didn't let them know you were there, believe me, they know you weren't there. Okay? So, the other thing we'll do is we'll have our office even call them up and explain to them, hey, the guys got rained out. They're going to come back tomorrow morning, or they'll just come back next week. Your lawn doesn't grow very fast anyway. You should be just fine. So each customer is different. You got to deal with them differently. Okay? So communication is key for everything. That's why it's nice to get emails for every customer you have, because you can do it from your phone. You can email them while you're going down the road to the next job. You can have the guy who's sitting beside you, he needs to be literate on that. He needs to be able to email that customer and just say, hey, we noticed a tree was broke down in the backyard, or, you know, the part of your fence is coming down, or anything that you could get blamed for. It's nice to be able to communicate that to them ahead of time, so then you don't get blamed for that stuff. Okay? So keep that in mind. Another thing they get mad about is if you mow early in the morning. I know when we get behind with rain, a lot of times we'll get going at the crack of daylight, and a lot of people are still sleeping yet, so they get pissed at us for that. And especially when we're way behind and we're trying to get those jobs done. And then too, working late at night, we've been chased off properties because we're out there at 9, 10 o'clock at night trying to finish them, you know, and it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating, but it's one of them things. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, they bitch about it. Let's see, mowing on weekends. A lot of times that's when people are off and they don't want to be mowed on weekends. So do what you can so that you don't have to mow them on weekends. Okay. Do what you can so that you just mow them Monday through Friday. Hold your guys accountable. Make them bust their ass. Don't let them just slough off. Okay. You got to get those jobs done before the weekend if you can all help it, because people want to come home and relax at their house. They don't want to have to sit and worry about you out there mowing grass when they're out there with a newspaper trying to read it Saturday morning, okay? Keep that in mind, pet peeve of theirs. Not showing up is huge. I can't stress that enough. When you don't show up for a job, that pisses people off. If you skip them, it pisses people off. We made it a policy that you go to every single property and you mow every single property, or at the very least, you're going to communicate with them that, hey, we got here, things were soaking wet, rain's in the forecast for the next 4 days. We're not going to get to this thing while it's sopping wet. I mean, we have some lawns in Palm Bay that are just ridiculous. Even when it rains, it's like it takes 3 days for them to dry out. So it's really, I don't know what it is over there, but something in the soil. So it just doesn't let them dry out. But anyway, hopefully these points will be of interest to you and things that you can head off and stop so that you don't lose customers, okay? If there's anything I didn't cover, and I'm sure there's other things I didn't, leave your comments below or anything you want me to talk about. I'll be happy to do a video on it. Again, this is George Packard with another exciting edition of Shop Talk.